I see a Budweiser. Go ahead and hold it up.
Yes. There's
that was
our
the biggest clue.
Yes, right
Doing
there.
it for Dale.
Man, it's so many gimmicks, right? I feel like they're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, a lot of people, you get polarizing opinions on DRS.
I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here, but sometimes the effort, it's all about the boys. You know, like, hey, you know, life sucks sometimes, and you need the boys.
iRacing kind of always has a tendency to kind of buff the new cars just a little bit. I'm not going to go on record saying it's because they want people to spend money on their platform and buy all the new content.
Confirmed.
But
Turn one is going to be interesting. Let's see if everybody gets through it. Looks like there's a little bit of a bump there, but everybody's getting through it okay. Now into turn two, turn three. We're 3 wide right in front of them. Oh, we got cars everywhere.
Big trouble. Kingsbury, you need to work on closing this gap and then maybe play the patience game. Make sure your tires are nice and cool. Don't overuse them. And to stay there in a good position as we see a pass for the lead. Hutcherson making the big move into turn one, Young Wall.
Like Kingsbury's trying to go around the out or the inside, but it turns into the outside, and there's contact. Marwan did not leave him any room.
Yeah,
oh no!
Get together.
Oh no!
Where he should be.
So what happened there, Mike? What did he do? Did he suck his tire off?
I'm gonna go mute now.
Alrighty, well, hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the SimCAR series. This is round number 7 of the season, coming to you tonight from WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca in sunny California. This track is absolutely awesome, and in these GT3 race cars, we are going to see a whole lot of great racing action tonight. My name is Ron Maunz. Joining me in the commentary booth, currently getting some stuff set up, is Mike Braun, and in the virtual production hauler, possibly joining us in the commentary booth while Mike gets some of his stuff set up, is Adam Thompson. And now Laguna Seca, it is a wonderful racetrack, originally tried to host Formula One many moons ago, which is part of the reason why this reconfiguration into the track layout that we have today came to be all the way back in the 80s or 90s, I believe it may have been. Someone may have to fact check me on my history stats there, but this track, absolutely classic, home to all sorts of wonderful, chaotic, and exciting moments throughout IndyCar racing, sports car racing, whatever kind of cars race here on this racetrack. They usually put on a good show, and here with these GT3 race cars, it is absolutely no exception. This series has been quite interesting thus far this season, with only 2 more rounds left to go, only 1 after tonight. The drivers are starting to feel a little bit more pressure than they have so far this season. And now, Adam, you've been here with this series in the production hauler throughout a vast majority of it, so you want to make stock of the races that we've had thus far and what our expectations should be heading into this race at Laguna Seca tonight.
I think our expectations are going to be nothing but good ones tonight. It's going to be a great track. Track temp sitting at about 112 degrees tonight, so it's going to be a fun one. We're going to have a lot of issues with tires, I have a feeling, especially in that 45-minute feature race. But before I go into that, let's take a lap around here real quick. Coming into turn 1 now. The Andretti hairpin. You want to try to keep this as tight as you can, and you can see we're on board with Elias Roman right now. He does a great job. Now we're coming into turn 3. Got to be careful here. If you get this sausage curb, it will push the car out to the left, and you can get a very easy off track, especially turn 4. Same way. Little bit of a lift. These cars have plenty of mechanical grip to get around that without too much braking. Now into turn 5. A little bit of a, it's going to come off camber, so you want to get as much of that curb as you can. Get some grip on the left-hand side. Run about as wide as you can. Now into turn 6. This is going to be the fun one. A little bit of a lift here. You can run wide again, as we saw an issue with the car right in front of Elias there. But moving on into my favorite part of the track now is the corkscrew. Break at about the 300-meter board, maybe the 200 if you're brave. It's blind, it's downhill, a massive elevation drop. You can lose the rear end very quickly at the bottom of that corner as someone veers off to the right-hand side. Now he is on his way through turn 9, now turn 10. Again, none of these corners are going to be super, super difficult braking zones, but you can get it wrong so easily as you wash out wide. Now into the final corner. Got to get a good run out of here because you will. If you don't, you will be under pressure going into turn 1. And that was a lap around here with Elias Roman. And yes, Ron, it has been an absolutely amazing season so far. Lots of winners. Blake Reynolds not in the field tonight, though, so that's going to give other drivers a chance, which is great news for our guy in first place right now in the pro class, Cody Cosgrove.
That is amazing news for him, and we'll have to see how these drivers deal with this race this evening. And going back to the point that I mentioned in my open, it was actually all the way back in 1987 when they reconfigured this track. Originally, turn number 2 was not a hairpin. Instead, they pretty much just had a link road between, what is now the Andretti hairpin, all the way to turn number 5 on the present day track. It was much quicker, only 1.9 miles back then, but then they changed it after 1987 to lead to the combination. Well, rough configuration that we have to this day, some changes have come to this track here and there. Now, Mike, I believe we do have you with us now on this broadcast. I'll ask you this here real quick. Laguna Seca, a very historic track. How do you think of it?
Oh, it is an iconic track, and I don't know that I could follow Adam given that that run around the lap. And actually, Elias did a great job on not giving the slow motion curse because, as Adam knows, every time that we've done a ride along during the qualifying, somebody has quit halfway through the lap. So, Elias, thank you very much for going through the full lap for us. But this is truly an iconic track with so many just different types of turns. You've got hard braking hairpins, you've got the corkscrew, which is just, massively iconic with anybody in racing. If you don't know what the corkscrew is, you're not a road racing fan. And it's such a blind corner for these guys to come through. And so it's going to be some interesting racing. We've had some fantastic racing all season long, from Belle Isle to VIR, to Mount Panorama. So these guys we're in for a treat. And Ron, you are going to be definitely in for a treat with these guys.
Oh, I think I certainly will. Harkening my mind back to a couple of weeks ago when we were last part of a broadcast here with the SimCAR series. It was at Imola, which much different track. However, there are some similarities that can be drawn from Imola to Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Actually, now it's WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca now in my mind. Harkening back to the old days back when it was called Mazda Raceway. But anyways, here's the starting grid for the first race this evening. The 15-minute long sprint. And it's going to be the Canadian Cody Cosgrove in that number 18 car leading them to green. A 121.444 was his pole position time. The Frenchman of Romain Rateau will join him on that front row. We have Ray Kingsbury right behind him in third, Devin Horvath in P number 4. Then we have Murphy Nichols in 5th, Stephen Baker in 6th, Elias Roman in 7th, Kevin Fanning going to be starting this race in P8, Justin El Nasir going to be starting this race in 9th, Anthony Flores, the top starting of the AM drivers, he's going to be starting this race in P10. Then we have Casey O'Brien in 11th. Christian Youngwall going to round out your top 12.
In the 13th spot, you're going to have Matt Kingsbury. Uncommon for him to be this far back. A little surprised to see him back there. 14th will be Brandon Lambert. 15th will be Paul Mikolajczyk. Then you got Daniel Coletta in 16th. Marwin Mafta, the next amateur, in the 17th spot. Travis DeFlumer in the 18th spot. Kevin Bogart, 19th. 20th will be Josh Stultz. Jeff Johnson in 21st. 22nd will be Peter McDade. Tim Brokaw in the 23rd spot. And Brian Sohn in 24th.
We're going to look through the final few starters, which is going to be Josh Suxey in the number 27 car, starting this race in 25th. Jason Lynn in 26th. And that's going to be John Major Banks. I think I remember the broadcast at Imola. Marjorie Banks. probably killed the name again. He's starting in 27th. We'll just call him John M throughout the rest of this broadcast so I don't embarrass myself anymore. He's in the number 30 card. He's going to be rounding out the 27 cars to take the starts in this race. And considering the recent piece of iRacing news, really nice to see 2 McLarens out there in the field, while the old McLaren MP4-12C is still in there. That car was introduced 11 years ago. I was a wee lad when the McLaren was introduced into iRacing, so the old workhorse finally getting to enjoy its retirement in just a couple of weeks' time when the new Season 4 clicks over here for 2024 in iRacing. But 27 cars around this track with only 11 turns and a 15-minute sprint race in front of us now, Mike. It's going to be a hard-fought evening of racing action, but the 15-minute sprint race with a lot less time than, of course, the 45-minute long feature that these drivers will have in their hands later on. I think we're going to see even more pressure than ever before, considering that we're coming towards the end of the season as well. So what are your expectations heading into this sprint race?
Real quick, I'm going to cut you off, Mike, real quick. So it is, I'm going to do it on the stream. It is John Marchbanks, and it is Joshua Suji. Going back to my hole now.
There we go. Thank you very much, Adam. Anyways, as you're saying, Mike?
My train got derailed. But no, the big thing with the sprint race, with the format for these guys is the top 8 at the sprint race get inverted for the main event. So you're going to see a lot of battles sitting around in that 7th and 8th spot, trying to hang on to that front row start for the main event. So we're going to have to see how these guys work out. And it's always, last week we saw that happen with the eventual winner sitting back there in that 8th spot and just rode it out, sat on the front row and ran away and hid in the main event. So we'll have to see how that works out and watch that main event as we're coming around to the last turn.
Alrighty, here we go. You can see that field is packed up and pair up, about to head their way through turn number 11 to kick this race off. It's going to be an all Porsche front row leading us to green in just a few moments time. The green flag is out and the drivers are on their way, and that's a fantastic start from Cody Cosgrove. He's going to have a significant lead heading into turn number 1. Meanwhile, Roman Rateau is locked steady in a close fight between himself and Ray Kingsbury heading into turn number 1. Side by side, Kingsbury going to have that inside line in the number 25 car. Rateau in the 23 being hung out to dry on the outside line. Meanwhile, some side-by-side action all up and down the field. Some drivers already playing the mover and shaker position. Both of those playing their role in this race right now. Drivers still trying to go for some moves heading into turn number 4. Pretty clean start throughout a vast majority of this field. Currently, I believe the only driver out of this race right now is Johnson. He's not out of it. However, he's already 1 lap down. Not sure if he even took the start of the formation lap, but either way, still 26 cars left out there on the racetrack, and Cosgrove actually extending that gap now to about 7.5 tenths of a second in front of Ray Kingsbury.
Yeah, good start from Cody as we come down into that iconic corkscrew right now. We've got 3 Porsches all together, and just pulling away already from the rest of the field. Does it look like we have a little bit of an incident up in the corkscrew? Possible wreck up there as we see somebody dropping down off the field. Let's maybe take a gander and see what happens as we're coming up there. Looks like Joshua Suji before the corkscrew. I think we lost a Mustang in the corkscrew. I'm not quite sure who it was, but we'll have to see what happened to Josh here. Just losing the back end around there, and it looks like Elias losing a problem as well. Elias, one of our strong runners, and early on here, Ron, and having a little problem, and must have had a slowdown, and hit that sausage curb and spins out. Tough break for Elias.
Oh yeah, those sausage curbs around this racetrack, they're pretty much urban plateaus. You hit that and then you're in for a world of hurt, and sadly, heading through the second to last corner of turn 10, that's going to catch him out badly. He's lost out on a whole lot of time. I believe he's actually had to tow back to pit lane. Tough start for Elias Roman. He's actually exited the pits now, albeit down in 26th, second to last so far in this 27 car field. I think we have another moment, this time from Marshbank. Marchbanks. He's dropped down the running order down to 24th. Not sure what happened to the driver of the number 30 McLaren. I think this may be a replay to see what happened to Marchbanks. You can see him heading his way through turn number 5 right now on corner exit, maybe running a little bit wide. Yes, he did. He dipped a wheel into the dirt, and that was a big hit on the inside wall coming out of turn number 5. A very easy mistake to make, Mike. I've seen plenty of drivers go off there in very similar fashion. Unfortunately, Marchbanks getting bit by the bullet there.
All I know is I am hungry now after watching that replay with a very eloquent paint job on Marchbanks' car. But yeah, tough break. I know I've done that a few times coming in that turn. You want to carry so much speed through that center section, trying to get up the hill with lots of speed, and a tough break for him.
That is a very strange-looking paint scheme, it must be said, the McNugget car. I didn't have that on my bingo card coming into this broadcast. That is for darn sure, but never mind. Let's talk about this fight that we see right now, right towards the tail end of the top 10. This is a hornet's nest of GT3 race cars heading their way into turn number 5. We're following Kevin Fanning, who's holding on to that final top 10 spot. And bearing in mind, folks, we do have a top 8 invert for the start of the feature 45-minute long race that we have coming up for you in just a couple of moments time. And as it stands at the moment, it's Nasir in the Porsche number 41 holding on to that final transfer spot pretty much by the skin of his teeth, as you have Youngwall and the McLaren right behind looking to pick up the pieces. Fanning in that Mustang running in the final top 10 spot. You also have Casey O'Brien in the Ferrari number 28 looking to get involved if there's any sort of drama a little bit farther up the road. This is just an insane pack of race cars right now. They're still swapping spots as Youngwall went off heading through turn number 10, has a major bit of rally action, and that's going to lose him a little bit of time. Tough break from Christian Youngwall to drop his way out of the top 10.
Yeah, that sausage curve, he just took a whole bunch of sausage curve coming in to turn 10, and like you said, he went rallying down there. Makes a nice move on the inside here to get by Paul, but might be a little too late as we're coming up on the 5 minutes down. We still got 10 minutes to go, and it's going to be tough to work his way back up into that 8th spot. But I am a little surprised to see Kevin Fanning sitting in that 9th spot in that big old Mustang right now. He's obviously got to be muscling that thing around this track. This track is not favorable for big, huge, heavy, high-powered, front-engine drive cars. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can do during this race and during that main event, because as we've seen in some of these other events, these Mustangs, those tires start getting warm and they start getting a little hairy and a little loose.
I think these drivers are going to have a whole lot of trouble on their hands. And speaking of, who is that spinning heading through turn number 8? A little bit farther in the back, my apologies. That was heading into turn number 6 onto that right haul straightaway. That was Peter McDade spinning in dramatic fashion heading through the corner. I could just see in the back a shot, the car spinning violently out of control. And here is a replay to see exactly what happened to McDade. And it's another bite of that sausage curb, and these drivers picking up food poisoning from biting those sausages. And it happens again heading through 6.
First it's McNuggets, now it's sausages. Man, I'm going to be ordering a pizza after this. I don't know about you guys.
I already had one earlier tonight. Actually, that's probably not making things any better for you, Mike. I would like to sincerely apologize for that quote. Anyways, I think we should probably talk about the racing, and I don't know, maybe if we have a crash here in the not-too-distant future, that would maybe lower both of our appetites. We'll just have to wait and see. I don't know. Oh, and speaking of, Kevin Bogart has gone off the track in the number 69 car. That was very poor timing from my end. I would like to wholeheartedly apologize to Kevin Bogart for that one. He's gone off on the Andretti hairpin, and you can see a little bit of nose damage on that car already. That front bumper is missing. Has probably already been put for sale on eBay by now. He already had some damage before this off-track excursion. You can see a Corvette right in front of him and made some contact. That was very bizarre for him to go spinning like a top with rear to front contact. What do you make of that, Mike? That looked very strange.
My typical comment on that is Porsche doing Porsche things. So he had to slam on the brakes a little hard, and the engine decided to be in front. And yeah, it was a little odd. He just, when you're trailing somebody that hard coming into the Andretti hairpin, you know that he's going to be hard under the brakes, and you really want to back it up and just step back a little bit. So a real bizarre kind of incident there as we're riding along with Romain Rateau there, in the 3rd spot, not too far back from Ray Kingsbury. So we still got those 3 Porsches running up front, Ron, and then we got 3 Ferraris in a row. So real interesting in our top 8. We've got, 5 Porsches and 3 Ferraris right now in that top 8.
That's one thing that we've seen as of late, as look at that move from Rateau heading into turn number 5. That was a dive, however, it may not be successful as Ray Kingsbury gonna go back on him heading into turn number 6. They'll be side by side, and Rateau backs out of it. Those two bumper to bumper coming out of the corner. They're gonna be side by side going up the Rahal straightaway, now careening their way into the corkscrew. A little bit of contact before the braking zone heading into the turn. Those drivers are giving no quarter out there on the racetrack. Rateau, that was a ridiculous send heading into turn number 5, and it damn nearly stuck, but sadly just not close enough to get that move done when everything was said and done. And look at this fight a little bit farther outside the top 10. This is Brandon Lambert currently running in P12 in that number 46 Corvette. That position was briefly occupied by Youngwall, however, he's dropped back yet again. Not sure what's going on with that McLaren. He has struggled ever since that mistake he had not terribly long ago, but looking at this, that's Rateau running a third. He's in the midst of a sandwich. He's got Ray Kingsbury in front of him, Nichols right behind. It wasn't with the food references on this broadcast. I think that both of us are psychotically hungry. But anyways, Nichols in that Ferrari, he is doing wonders. And getting back to the point that I was going to mention a lot ago, as Murphy Nichols goes off the track hanging into turn number 3. Perfect time for me to try and harken back to a point I was going to mention not long ago. Really nice to see a wide variety of GT3 race cars now in iRacing, and deja vu with Rateau heading down the inside into turn number 5. Not close enough again to get that move done on Kingsbury. He's going to remain in P3 for now, but Rateau, you gotta give him a whole lot of credit for at least giving it the old college try.
No, absolutely. He's doing a great job just sitting right there waiting for those mistakes as we go back up front with Cody Crossgrove out in front and pulling away with a 3-second advantage right now on Ray Kingsbury. With those guys battling like that, that's just going to open up that gap even farther. But, like we've talked about already is, we're closing in on 10 minutes down with 5 minutes still left to go. And, we've got to remember that there's going to be an invert for that top 9. So if you're running up front pulling away, it's not going to serve you any purpose when you go into the main, because you're going to be starting in the 4th row back behind a whole group of guys. But as you can see right now, we got a good battle with Christian Youngwall trying to work his way back up, as you said, in that McLaren, trying to piece his way through, gets back up into that 12th spot as he is battling out with Brandon Lambert right now. But one of the things to look at right now, too, is in the 6th spot, you've got our first amateur, and that's Anthony Flores, doing a great job, as we refer to him as the UPS man, because he likes to send it. So he's doing a good job. He's that tail end of that 3-pack of Ferraris in the top 6 right now, but doing a great job holding his own and holding on to that amateur lead. But as you see, a big gap back to the next amateur in the 15th spot. So he's looking for a good point stall if he can hold on to this in the main event.
Oh, and look at that nice move from Peter McDade heading into the Andretti hairpin of turn 2. That was on Lynn in the Mustang number 671. They were side by side very briefly. Now we got some side by side action here involving Kingsbury and Rateau. They're not going to be side by side. We're side by side coming out of the corkscrew. They weren't side by side heading into Rainy Curve as a single filed out. These drivers battling has extended that gap between Kingsbury and Cosgrove now to 4.5 seconds. But look at Rateau trying to go around the outside heading into the final corner of turn number 11. Don't usually see a driver go for a move like that. However, he's still sticking it on that outside line. It's a matter of who's going to get the good exit. I have a good feeling about Rateau, though. He was on that outside line. Didn't have to take a shallow exit. Was able to sweep around him. Now he's going to be stuck on that outside line, still heading into the Andretti hairpin. And look at Nichols in that Ferrari. He's going to be there to pick up the pieces if any of these drivers run into some troubles. And you can see Rateau nearly running Nichols off the track heading into turn number 3. Now some aggressive racing with Rateau, and he's not very happy with the defensive masterclass that Kingsbury has put on thus far in this race. He was flashing his headlights. He wants to get by the driver who's been running in P2 oh so long in this race, and he's doing everything in his power to try and get that move done. But if he races too hard, look at Nichols trying to pick up the pieces there in running in P4 right now. He very well may end up in P3 with how hard Rateau is trying to get a move done on Kingsbury. He really needs to pay attention to that Ferrari in his rearview mirror.
No, absolutely. This is a great battle for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th right now. Ooh, trying to get by. Murphy is just sitting back there, but if Ray was thinking about it, we were talking about this invert. If he's sitting in that 2nd spot right now, and if Rateau is battling him this hard, there's a chance of him that he could have an accident. He could cause him to spin, could bump into him accidentally, something like that effect. do you let him go by and move up a position in the main event because you let him go by? So, could be an interesting play here with only a couple of laps left to these guys as we're, 2 minutes left to go. How does Ray play that out? So we'll have to see how it works out.
And seeing this level of aggression, I should say, from Rateau brings my mind back to the Imola round just 2 weeks ago, where he had a very good position in that 15-minute long sprint race at that track in Italy, but then he had a mistake and his night pretty much unraveled from there. So he's looking to try not have a repeat of that. Running a third is still a very good spot, and he wouldn't lose a whole lot of spots either with the field invert. He'd go from P3 to P4 overall. Not too bad. If you're going to lose out on a spot, you better lose one instead of two or even three. But looking at that fight, I have a good feeling about Nichols heading into the 45-minute long feature race, because he's been in dirty air ever since the drop of the green flag, and he's still pretty good pace-wise, actually faster than Ray Kinsbury last time by, and not terribly far off Rateau pace-wise either. So that driver is putting on a very good showing. Ooh, look at that. That's Coletta. He just went off the track heading out of turn number 6. Had some rally action coming off the corner, and that's going to allow Brendan Lambert to slip by him. I think we're going to take a look at a replay to see exactly what went wrong heading through turn number 6.
As we're coming up on Brandon Lambert right now, coming around, just loses the tail end around on that Corvette, and nothing too crazy, but not quite too sure what happened to the Porsche. But Lambert just kind of getting in there a little too hot. And here comes our favorite paint job right here, John Magerbanks with the McNugget car around the Andretti loop. Andretti hairpin coming into turn 3 and goes scent on it, and synchronized looping around turn 3. And man, just a tough move right there. And I'm not quite sure. I don't know. It was just a tough move trying to make that move right there.
Well, these drivers tend to go for some aggressive maneuvers, but heading into turn number 3, that was really an act of desperation from John Marshbanks. I'm not sure who that was. That may have been Coletta that just slipped through that. Actually, no, my apologies. That was Kevin Bogarts, the one that just slipped through that. Look at that. Some evasive maneuvers from Bogart to try and not get a piece of that incident that was just happening right in front of his windscreen. Heading into turn number 3, the checkered flag is going to be coming out for Cody Cosgrove, and he is going to take a dominant victory in the opening race for tonight. He wins the 15-minute long sprint. Ray Kinsbury going to put on a defensive masterclass to hold on to the P2 spot. Romain Rateau going to round out your podium in 3rd, and Nichols, he wasn't able to get a move done eventually on Rateau. He still finishes in P4 though. That's going to be pretty good. And look at Anthony Flores finishing in P6, a top finishing AM driver, and he was also the driver that will inherit the reverse grid pole for the 45-minute long feature race that we have coming up for you in just a couple of moments time. We're just seeing the rest of the field cross that finish line now. Pretty strong showing from Cosgrove, 3.9 seconds at the end between himself and Kinsbury. What do you make of that performance, Mike?
No, that was a great race, and that was a good battle with Rateau, Kingsbury, and Nichols going at it. Good, clean racing, too. They were side by side multiple times. It just, that's what racing's all about. That's what's fun about racing with some of these guys is having that side-by-side racing. But I think the big shout-out for me is actually in the 8th spot. That's going to be your invert right there, and that is Kevin Fanning in the big old Mustang as we see Sean going full send with his nuggets. I hope he has ranch dip to go with that, by the way. But the top 8 spot, Kevin Fanning's going to be starting on the pole in that big old huge Mustang, leading him into turn 1. So I think that might be an interesting point to watch when we go into that final.
And that is a very good point that you bring up there, Mike, not only because it's very consequential for what this feature race is going to have in store. For some reason, I just thought for the past few minutes that it was a top 6 invert rather than a top 8 invert. But nevertheless, it's still going to be a Mustang leading them to green into turn number 2. It always kind of irks me around Laguna Seca that the Andretti hairpin is technically turn number 2 and not turn number 1, but hey, that's a subject for motorcyclists to debate with a brick wall. But anyways, getting ready for this 45-minute long feature race, we have a small little warm-up session, really the calm before the storm, before things really kick off in this feature race. Despite being 45 minutes in length, unlike some other GT3 series that you may see run here in iRacing, no pit stops are really going to be anything that crosses these drivers' minds come time for this race. It is just a 45-minute long dogfight from start to finish, and around a track like this, where on paper, at least in certain race cars, there's not a whole lot of overtaking opportunities, that trend just got bucked in that sprint race, because we saw some drivers going for a move in just about every single corner, some a bit more successful than others, mind you. Saw drivers going for some moves into turn number 2, saw some drivers go for some moves into turn number 3, saw some drivers go for some moves into 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. They're very, very aggressive, and I feel like we could see that same level of aggression for the opening part of this 45-minute long feature. We'll just have to wait and see, Mike. Do you think that theory holds some value, or do you think these drivers are maybe going to see that longer race distance be 3 times as longer as it was in that sprint race, and maybe exercise just a little bit of caution?
No, I think caution's going to get thrown out the window right off the bat here. It's going to be a great battle. These guys definitely put on a great show, and this track is, there's really no resting on this track at all. It's there's no breaks. There's no long straightaway really to kind of sit back, take a breath. So it's going to be constant fighting as you're jumping through the turns, constant going battle with each other. But we've got all these Ferraris and Porsches up in that top 10 right now, and that one Mustang. It's really, Ron, it's really pointing out to me that Mustang could be a determining factor when we get into that main.
This 45-minute long sprint race. I think. Oh, okay. I guess hopefully that didn't get picked up. We were just having a small little bit of conversation during that brief little break here, about to get things underway for the rest of this race meeting. It is going to be a strong feature race. A lot of these drivers going to be quite aggressive over this 45-minute race that we have coming up in just a couple of moments time. Still in this warm-up session for now, however, as these drivers get onto the racetrack, I think we'll give a very strong preview as to what to expect in that 45-minute race. Aggression going to be a big one that may have gotten picked up in that very brief little blip as we came back to the live action. The Mustangs, we were talking about that right before we had that low break. The Mustangs are going to be a big factor, which is a little bit surprising to me, Mike, honestly. When the Mustangs got introduced into iRacing not terribly long ago, I remember hearing from a somewhat credible source involved in an esports team. I will not say his name. However, he pretty much said that as good as a Mustang is in a straight line, it's not very good in the corners. But to see the Mustangs put on the good show that they've had so far here at Laguna Seca, at least from my perspective, it's a little bit surprising. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, no, the Mustang is definitely a point-and-shoot kind of car. You really have to get into a turn, stop the car, rotate it, and then get back on the accelerator, where a lot of these mid-engine cars that are running up front, or those rear-engine cars like the Porsche, they rotate through these corners so good and so much better. So that's why I'm really surprised to see Kevin running so well in that Mustang. I know I couldn't run that thing around this track. I tried doing a tight track like this with the Mustang and just was not able to get it around, and it just, I don't know. And then in the rain, if this was a rain race, Mustangs is probably the worst rain car on this service right now.
Well, I mean, they are fairly big in nature, so I'd expect the cars that have about the same size of a boat to be good in the rain, but sadly, I guess that, looks can be deceiving at times, but nevertheless, we're about to head into the second race of the evening, and here is the starting grid. Kevin Fanning in one of those Mustangs going to lead us to green. Steve Baker going to join him on the front row. Then we have Anthony Flores in third. The AM driver was the highest finishing AM driver in the first race. He's going to be the highest starting AM driver for the second. Then we have Devin Horvath in P number 4. Murphy Nichols going to be starting this race in P6. Then we have Roman Rateau in P6. Ray Kingsbury in P7. Cody Cosgrove going to start this race in P8 after finishing the first race in P1. Then we have Casey O'Brien in 9th. Justin El Nasir in 10th. Then we have Christian Youngwall in that McLaren going to be starting this race in P11. And then it is going to be the number 77 car being driven by Paul Mikulacek. Paul Mikulacek, there we go. Had to go through the archives to try and find the correct pronunciation. I don't want to get pilloried after this broadcast. And then you can see the drivers that are starting outside the top 12, Mike.
And the 13th spot is going to be your next amateur, so 10 spots behind Anthony Flores. So big jump for Anthony as we're coming across. So Marwin Mofto will be 13th, Brandon Lambert will be 14th, Daniel Colita in the 15th spot, Josh Stultz in 16th, Travis DeFlumer 17th, Tim Brokaw in the 18th spot, Matt Kingsbury, uncommon for him to be back here in that 19th spot. Brian Stone in 20th. And then you got Paul McDade in the 21st, Jason Lynn 22nd, Elias Roman in the 23rd spot, Kevin Bogart in 24th. And then in the 25th spot, we've got John Majorbanks with Jeff Johnson in 26th. And rounding out that 27 car field, we've got Josh Suji.
And there we go. Those are the 27 starters that are about to grab the green in just a couple of moments' time. Some of the viewers here on this stream tonight on Slow Motion Broadcasting may have heard the slight panic in my voice as I was looking for the correct pronunciation of Paul Mikulacek's name. Thankfully, now I've gotten most of the name pronunciations up on my screen, so I will be able to find them a lot easier. Now a little bit of breaking the fourth wall moment there, but nevertheless, excited to get things up and rolling for this 45-minute long feature race. We saw some aggression and some drivers banging and roughing each other up and going for some out-of-pocket outrageous maneuvers, mainly the one hanging into turn number 3 during that race. Some of these drivers going to be forcing the issue a little bit more. The start probably going to be even more important than it was in the 15-minute long sprint. Mike, if you had one word to describe the racing action that we're just about to see unfold over the next 45 minutes, what word do you think you'd pick?
Oh, man, it's going to be some aggression, I think. I honestly do. That is, one front engine car sitting on the pole, and then you've got 10 mid to rear engine cars sitting right behind them. So these things are going to be able to really carry that corner speed to get through some of these turns. We're going to have to really see Kevin muscle that Mustang around and try to hold on. I keep going back to Kevin Fanning being the pivotal point, but I really do think that this is going to be a pivoting around him as we come down the front straightaway for the green flag.
And the green flag about to come out in a couple of moments' time. We've got a Mustang leading them to green, going early. The green flag is out. The drivers are on their way. And yet again, the pole sitter having a fantastic start. That's Kevin Fanning in that Mustang number 911 leading it into turn number 1. Flores now going side by side, trying to take P2 and making a little bit of contact with Baker heading into the Andretti hairpin the first time by. A lot of drivers going side by side, battling, scraping, and clawing for every single position they can on lap number 1 in this feature race. But these drivers are battling hard, they're racing hard, and they're trying to gain any single position that they can. It has been a pretty disastrous start for Rateau. He's now down to P7. Cody Cosgrove, meanwhile, started this race in P8. He's now down in 10th, so that is a really rough start for the Porsche. The number 18 car was dominant in that sprint race. He's now on the back foot quite massively early on into this 45-minute long feature race. Maybe trying to go for a move, heading it to turn number 6. That's going to push Casey O'Brien off the track. He's got to do some rally action, gets it back underway, albeit he's going to lose a little bit of time. Now dropping down to P12, but Cody Cosgrove with an aggressive move heading into turn number 6. That turn is tricky enough single file, let alone side by side. So the fact they made it through there clean on cold tires side by side is an honest to God miracle.
Yeah, no, that was a great aggressive move from Cody But, you know, good racing all around to be able to hang it side by side as we're back down the front straightaway one more time. Leading them down is that big old throaty Mustang going down the front straightaway as we're going side by side coming out of turn 11 right now. A couple of Mustangs going at it. Tim Brokaw battling it out with, looks to be, who's that? Kingsbury. Matt Kingsbury running with them right there. As we go back to Elias Roman. Man, Elias way back in that 19th spot when he had that problem in the sprint race that really dropped him in the back of the field. So he's on the back foot trying to work his way back up coming up. So, let's see what happened to Anthony Flores. You know, something dropping him down. Mr. UPS. Yes. Let's see what happens here.
Yeah, he's known for sending it. I think he may have sent it one too much there. Big snap of oversteer and a big hit into the concrete barrier coming out of turn number 3. Dipped a wheel off into the dirt, and that upset that Ferrari of Flores. He's now dropped down like a rock, currently running in P10, and he's going to continue to drop back even more. I mentioned right after that sprint race that these drivers probably weren't going to be eyeing up some pit stops in this race. I think Flores definitely has to, because that was a significant hip check against that concrete barrier that Ferrari is going to be handling unless he comes in to repair that damage. You can see some big snaps of oversteer, some strange steering, and he has now come down pit lane, so that is going to take Flores out of contention. Tough stuff for him because he was running very briefly in P2, but sadly for him, things have gone desperately wrong. We saw a side-by-side battle between Paul Mikulacek, and I believe that may have been Casey O'Brien. Yes, it is Casey O'Brien, the BMW and the Ferrari driver going side by side right towards the tail end of the top 10, and there it is. Casey O'Brien trying to get that move done down the inside of Mikulacek. Now Mikulacek's got the inside line heading into turn number 3. They will still be side by side, and look at Mofta and the Mustang right behind, looking to pick up the pieces if these drivers come to blows. And all of that drama, it's actually given the AM lead to Mofta in that Mustang right behind, nearly making it 3 wide coming out of turn number 4. I don't think so. Now he's got to try making it 3 wide, nearly heading it to turn number 5. Do these drivers not fear death?
No, they don't. And what's going to happen when we get into the carousel right now, or the corkscrew right now, when we get to the top? Oh, and off the track.
Ooh.
Oh, off the track goes KC, and that's going to give the spot to Marwin now. Marwin closing in, but he's in one of those big old heavy Mustangs. This is where a lot of the bottleneck's going to be coming up during this race, is those Mustangs trying to get in there, as we see the McNugget mobile going for a full send into the corkscrew. Man, he full sent it into the corkscrew there, but everybody's able to hold on to it, and nobody sucked off a tire coming into that section. So we are good to go as everybody's leading them around for one more lap.
There are some very interesting quotes over the span of the past 30 seconds here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, and oh my god, a parking lot coming into turn number 11. Marshbank's getting a piece of that. I can see Casey O'Brien and Coletta involved in that as well. I think Lambert got a piece of the action. Casey O'Brien has that to tow back to pit lane. Jeff Johnson got a piece of that as well. And here it was. You can see Brandon Lambert getting a small little piece of it. And we think it may have all started possibly with Peter McDade. We're following him heading into turn number 10 right now. So not sure how he got involved in this. Actually, yeah, you can see him. Ooh, yeah, you can see just the tail end of that parking lot forming. That's Lambert. He got clipped there just ever so slightly. Got a piece of that action, and there's Peter McDade coming in and seeing that parking lot coming out of turn number 11 with the pit entry here at Laguna Seca. That is pretty much a completely blind corner heading through it. So to come out of the final corner around this treacherous lap of Laguna Seca and see that on the outside of the corner is quite terrifying. So all those drivers getting a piece of that incident. It's actually helped out Flores. He's now jumped his way up to P23 even after coming down pit lane to repair some of that damage. It has sent this field into absolute pandemonium. We were following Nichols there for a few moments. Murphy Nichols running 4th in the Bombshell Racing Team Ferrari number 17. He is trying to battle hard. He's got Ray Kingsbury right behind, Rateau right behind Kingsbury again. So a little bit of deja vu from what we saw in the first race. Cody Cosgrove actually not making up the spots that we were probably expecting from the driver that took a dominant win in the first race of the evening. He's still running down in 8th. Not ideal starts for the driver in the number 18 Porsche, but looking up and down this field, it is incredibly tight throughout a vast majority of the top 10. And look at this from Rateau diving down the inside into turn number 5 to try and take P5. And look at this, side by side on corner exit. Ray Kingsbury is not going down without a fight. They're going to be side by side into 6th, and Kingsbury is going to clear. Well done, Ray Kingsbury. That number 25 Porsche has to be the widest Porsche in the land, but it may not be over yet, as look at Rateau trying to get that move done down the inside line, heading into the corkscrew. They are still side by side, and look at Youngwall in that McLaren looking to pick up the pieces if these drivers come to blows. Rateau having a terrible line on the inside line through Rainy Curve, and that's a big off-track moment for Youngwall. He got to keep it going in a straight line. No, he hits the wall. Youngwall hits the wall. He was running so good, so long, that went so badly, so quickly.
That was like a replay from the sprint race, watching Kingsbury and Rateau going at it. I mean, that's side by side and just going back and forth. What a great battle it was with those guys. As we jump back to the McLaren of Youngwall after he just buried it in that wall, coming down into turn 10. Just, you know, the guy's going side by side, and he just had to take evasive action and got off the track and just went straight into the wall. Tough break for him, dropping back into that 10th spot. But we're back up top into the 5th spot. Kingsbury in the 5th spot, still with that whole rear view mirror full of Romain Rateau. In 6th, Cody Crossgrove up into the 7th now, with us losing Youngwall back there. So Crossgrove gaining a spot up into 7th. And you know, we talk about this track being, you know, challenging, and it's not honestly one of the easiest tracks to pass on. But watching, you know, Romain and Ray go at it, man, those guys are just going back and forth. What an entertaining race. And that's where you really like being in that driver's seat, being in that wheel, behind the wheel with these guys, and that is where the fun in racing comes.
We're going to take a look at a replay of an incident involving Devin Horvath, the Canadian driver, up 2 spots from where he started in this race. Actually, no, this was just a pass, so this is how he gained one of those 2 spots. That was a fairly textbook maneuver heading into Rainy Curve, and you can see some hard defending coming out of the corner. I'm not sure if that was entirely legal, but that's how the Canadian has made his way up to P2 in this race. 1.2 seconds in front of him is the leader of Fanning. Started this race from the pole, and he has been running at the front ever since that Mustang, feeling quite comfortable. But I'm curious, man, harkening my mind back to the Imola race 2 weeks ago, Mike, we saw those Mustangs be pretty strong in the opening stages, but then as the tires started to wear, they just dropped off a cliff. So I'm curious if we're going to have a little bit of deja vu with that here at Laguna Seca.
I think that's going to be a determining factor, because the track temp is 113 degrees right now. So these tires are going to get smoking hot. And if you don't manage your tires for that 45 minutes, you're definitely going to start falling off the grid. And so it's going to be interesting to see how it works out, as Kevin Fanning's still, I mean, he's turned in, 22.6 last time by, a real quick lap. So, but as you can see, Devin Hobart already closing that gap. He was a 1.5 seconds up, and look at this, a whole pack of those cars all on that back bumper right now. But, it's one thing to catch somebody, but Ron, the next thing to do is trying to pass them.
Oh yeah, that is exactly right. Catching up to them is one thing, overtaking is an entirely different thing. But that was pretty impressive from Horvath to catch up and close that gap between himself and Fanning in the span of just 1 lap. It was about 2 seconds not terribly long ago. Now it's under 2/10, and look at that, the dive from Horvath heading it to turn number 2. Those drivers very close to contact, and look at Baker and Nichols a little bit farther behind. They're going to pick up the pieces if these drivers come to blows and go off the racetrack in a cloud of steam and carbon fiber bits side by side heading through turn number 3. Look at Horvath sticking it on the outside of Fanning. It's 2x2 with Nichols and Baker trading blows right behind, making contact. Holy Lord, these drivers are racing like it's a final lap of the race. We're barely 10.5 minutes into this 45-minute race, and Horvath gets the move done. Fanning now dropping back to P3 with Nichols in the Ferrari following his Ferrari adversary to slip his way up into P2. Well done from Horvath. Fight like hell and get that move done on Fanning when everything was said and done. And it's still not over yet. Look at Baker now trying to displace Fanning in that final podium spot. Fanning, I gotta wonder if he had some sort of off-track moment that gave him a little bit of damage, as he's now side by side and having to deal with Ray Kingsbury. And look at Romain Rateau maybe trying to size up a move. He's still upset. He has yet to overtake Kingsbury so far in this race meeting, as I think he may try and use the drama created with Fanning dropping back to try and get a piece of it. Rateau still side by side with Fanning coming around the final corner, about to start lap number 9. These drivers are. Rateau, you can see with that wonderful graphics that we have here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, we can see his perspective. He's wearing a red shirt, which is making sense because he has seen the red mist all throughout this race. He is upset the fact he hasn't gone by Kingsbury so far in this race, and he's also going to be quite upset with the amount of time that he lost going side by side with Fanning over the past lap. And now look at Cody Cosgrove, the driver that won the first race of the evening. He's now trying to get a move done on the Mustang that started from the pole around the outside, heading through turn number 4, teetering on the edge of an off-track excursion, but Cosgrove getting that move done to slip his way up into P6 for now, as Fanning looked like he was going to try and fight back heading into 5. This has been a terrible series of events for Fanning. Started this race at the front, was running at the front, and the span of just about 3 laps, he went from leading this race to 2 seconds by getting a move put on him heading into turn number 2, 1 lap after that, and now he's running down in 7th. We were expecting the Mustangs to fall back, Mike. We weren't expecting it to be that dramatic, though.
No, absolutely not. It was definitely quick passing because all those mid-engine cars really sucked up behind him. But, in a lap and a half's time, he lost 7 spots. So tough break for Kevin, but you may have seen the writing on the wall coming on that one. But, great battle right now in the 19th spot and back. As you see UPS going for that send coming into the corkscrew. Does the wise thing right there. He actually backs out and saves it for another move. But Anthony Flores sitting in that 21st spot. But quite a ways back in that amateur field right now, as Marwan Mafta is still our leader. But as we're looking at Anthony right now, 3 wide and trying to send
big drama. Man. Big crash coming out of turn number 11. Jason Lynn and the Mustang got ping-ponged around as a result of that contact. Oh, that was a very aggressive maneuver, it must be said, from Anthony Flores. When he was heading into the corkscrew and backed out of it, he knew he had to go for a move soon, but heading into the corkscrew, I don't think that was a very well-advised maneuver. And you could see from the slow motion broadcasting blimp looking at the drama that took place heading through turn number 11, Lynn was upset, probably thinking, what the hell just happened? He saw Ferrari come out of nowhere and spin him out of a very good position. Tough break for Lynn in that 661 car. He's now dropped back, and Murphy Nichols going for a spin heading through turn number 10. That's going to lose him a spot maybe between himself and Steve Baker. Big contact heading into turn number 11. Baker giving him the boot scoon boogie nearly heading into turn number 11. Now Kingsbury moving his way up into 3rd. This race has been all sorts of pandemonium. The 15-minute sprint was somewhat calm. This is anything but, as Kingsbury trying to defend from Baker to retain his P3 spot. This race has just had so many twists and turns thus far. We didn't even get a chance to break down that Flores moment. I was going to say, with that move that he nearly tried to go for heading into the corkscrew, it was a smart call for him to try and back out of it, but heading into turn number 11, going for that dive and making it 3 wide, heading into the final corner of this racetrack. Look at that. That was Rateau diving it down the inside. That's him and Baker now going side by side, nearly heading out of turn number 5. These drivers are just so aggressive. It has been unbelievably ridiculous and unbelievably exciting to watch so far here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. If you're tuning in, you have tuned into a fantastic one as Matt Kingsbury making contact with the Audi of Sohn heading through turn number 5. That was a near disaster involving the 2 drivers running just barely inside the top 15. But if this race can calm down for 1 second, I'll say what I can say about the Flores moment hanging into turn number 11. He licked the stamp and sent it, but sadly for him, his envelope had a typo, and it just didn't work at all, as Rateau is now side by side again with Baker. The driver of the 2 and the 23 car going to be battling hard for the P4 spot. Who's going to prevail in this fight? Now look at Cosgrove making it 3 wide, and it ends in tears heading into the Andretti hairpin.
Wow. I saw that move coming probably about 3 turns away as Baker and Rateau were really going at it, and Rateau was pretty aggressive with him coming through. And yeah, I don't know. 3 wide is going into turn 1 is, or excuse me, turn 2. Andretti hairpin is not the way to go. That is definitely not the fastest way. But Romain still able to hang on to that 5th spot. So tough break for Steve Baker to drop all the way back into 8th. But Cody able to jump up into that 4th spot now, as we've talked about. He won the sprint race earlier, and he's working his way back up in the field when he started 8th to the grid. So up into the 4th spot, still about 4 seconds behind your leader. So we'll have to see if he can inch his way closer, as we've just passed 16 minutes down. Just under 30 minutes still less to go. So still anybody's race left, but you got 2 Ferraris leading the way right now.
This race has been insane, and we're just barely over the length of the sprint race. Oh my lord, Mike, this has been insane. I may not even have vocal cords left after this broadcast. It has been insane from start to finish. Now, I'm sure that drama is going to continue. I think we may have just had a disconnect. I saw a whole lot of red on our live timing screen. I'm not sure who may have just had an issue, possibly. Okay, I'm gonna maybe come back on that. There's Peter McDade. We're taking a look at a replay of something that may have happened to the driver of the Porsche, who's been, I wouldn't say the center of attention throughout tonight's broadcast. However, he's had some replays of some things that he's seen, and look at that, the dive. Oh, that was very clumsy from the 2 Porsches heading through the corkscrew.
I mean, you could dodge a wrench, you could dodge a ball. So going into the corkscrew, that is a tough, bang fenders, but he really slowed down the rotation there and just let him get the inside line. As we go back up with Kevin Fanning, Kevin able to get back up to that 6th spot after that little shenanigans with Baker. So Baker's going to be sitting behind him now, trying to get with him to try to get by. Oh, Nasir in that 7th spot, all over that back bumper of that Mustang of Kevin Fanning. But Kevin doing a great job, still hanging on to that 6th spot. And we'll have to come around and see. Looks like somebody went off the track again. Can't quite tell who that was. It looks like Suchi having a little problem here, possibly, Ron.
Oh yeah, here is a replay of the drama involving Suki, and oh my lord, that was probably the worst sausage curb whack we've seen thus far. Heading through turn number 10, he nearly got sent into low Earth orbit. That car was so upset. And here's another replay, this involving Anthony Flores, side by side on the outside line, hanging to turn number 6. I don't think so. That was a move that was doomed from the very beginning. And look at that, that was a nice move from Jeff Johnson Slick to slip his way in front of Flores. But my lord, this race has been drama-packed so far. I may not have vocal cords by the time this broadcast is done. Devin Horvath, meanwhile, I feel like he is going to be feeling like he dodged a bullet, because ever since he took the lead, it's just been absolute pandemonium behind him.
No, he made the pass at the right time and pulling away with that 2.5 advantage right now on Nichols. As we come back to the other Kingsbury, Matt Kingsbury sitting on the backside of Josh Stoltz right now in that 13th and 14th spot. A couple Mustangs chasing each other around and coming up the Ray Hall straight right now into that corkscrew. As we can see, these Mustangs got to get hard on the brakes. Oh man, a little too full send there. Man, missed that turn by a mile.
Oh, very, very close on the rejoin. That nearly ended in 2 Mustangs stacking it into the outside barrier coming out of the corkscrew. That was a dive and a half from Matt Kingsbury. I'll tell you what, if that gravel trap and tire barrier wasn't there, he may have ended up in Guadalajara when everything was said and done. That was incredibly deep. I mean, you gotta give him some respect for giving it a very unsuccessful attempt, but hey, he went for it, so you can't really disrespect him too much for that. Let's calm things down a little bit and talk about this man Mofta. He's leading in the AM category and leading comfortably right now. Stoltz and another Mustang running P2 in the AMs is well farther back. I believe it's about 11 seconds behind him is Stoltz. There you can see Josh Stoltz in that SKS Motorsports Mustang. The number 99 car running second in the AMs as it stands at the moment. And Peter McDade, the third running AM driver, is well farther back down in P17. We're going to focus on another Porsche right now, that being Romain Rateau. and we're going to see a replay of an incident involving Rateau that just happened in the past few moments. This is heading into turn number 3. Maybe a little bit of an off-track excursion for him. Yes, it was a little bit sideways, it must be said. So very well held from Romain Rateau to keep it going in a straight line. But Rateau, oh, you got to feel bad for Rateau because he has spent the entirety of both races thus far, the 15 minutes of the sprint and then the 21 minutes we've had so far of the feature behind Ray Kingsbury. Now he doesn't have to deal with the back of Kingsbury's car. Instead, he's looking at the back of Cody Cosgrove's Porsche number 18, who won the sprint race earlier on. He's put on a decent recovery drive after starting this race in P8 as a result of the reverse grid deal that we have here at SimCAR. So he's put on a pretty strong show, up 4 spots from where he started in this race. And speaking of some hard chargers, we've seen him from time to time. This is Elias Roman running in 12th. He is up 11 spots from where he started in this race, which is by a pretty significant margin, the highest position gained. Looking up and down the field, I believe the only person that can really contend with that is Jeff Johnson in the number 85 BMW running down in 20th. He's made his way up 6 spots ever since the start of this race. But these drivers just cutting their way through the field like a hot knife through butter, partially down to pace, but also down to the fact that we have seen a absurd amount of attrition, chaos, 2 parking lots around the final corner, and some overall craziness. And we haven't even hit the halfway mark of this race either.
Yeah, we said it was going to be a little bit of pandemonium, a little bit of chaos as you would go back up front with that 3rd and 4th spot right now. Ray Kingsbury, Cody Cosgrove right behind him, looking on that inside line, looking to sniff his way around, coming around the Andretti hairpin. Ray gets a little tire out off the track, able to still hang on to that 3rd spot. But Cody all over that back bumper trying to make a move. Is he going to try to make the same move that Romain made earlier and coming into turn 5? Let's see if he can still get a good drive and get on the inside. But tucked in behind him right now, closing that gap just a little bit, just breathing down those fumes of that Porsche of Ray Kingsbury as they're coming up into turn 6 right now and up Ray Hall straight, up that long straightaway. You want to make sure you get a good run up here. Ray getting the tire off the track, but able to still drive and get a good distance on Cody. Hard under the brakes into the corkscrew. And Kingsbury still hanging on to the spot and actually pulling away just a little bit, Ron.
Yeah, he is actually extending that gap a teeny tiny bit, which at this point, considering the drama that we had earlier on in this race, and this is very rare for you to hear a commentator say this, I'm happy that the field is spreading out a teeny tiny bit, because I feel like if we had any more drama, I probably would have pulled a muscle in my rib cage or something, calling the action. That was an off track that we just saw from John Marshbanks, trying to get out of the way of the cars coming up to lap him. He has had a very scrappy evening thus far. The McNugget car has been in and out of drama. It has been chewed up and frankly spat out of Laguna Seca. Not ideal for him at all. And we're going to see some side-by-side action here involving 2 Mustangs heading into the final corner. That's Matt Kinsbury getting that move done on Josh Stoltz to move his way up into 13th. Stoltz still the 2nd running of the AM drivers. 2 Mustangs running at the front of that class at the moment, but they're battling for P13 overall, and Stoltz not close enough to fight back and move up into lucky number P13. Meanwhile, we're back to the front of the field. Kingsbury still in front of Cosgrove. However, that gap is only about 0.2 of a second, actually decreasing, slowly closing, heading down the Ray Hall straightaway into the corkscrew, but still not close enough from Cosgrove to get that move done. At this point, coming up to about 20, actually, yeah, my brain's been so fried from this broadcast, I couldn't even do basic math there for a second. It is 20 minutes left to go, I think, coming up in just a couple of moments' time. It would be 20 minutes left. Kingsbury is maybe going to try and hold off Cosgrove, and Cosgrove just wants to get that move done as quickly as possible, because with 20 minutes left to go in this race, he may start to force the issue here soon. He needs to get by Kingsbury and close up that gap between Kingsbury and Nichols, and then he has one more car to deal with, and that would be Horvath, to try and pull off the double. Of course, considering I've only done one other broadcast with this series, I've not seen a driver pull off the double just yet. However, we may see that with Cosgrove. That would certainly not be out of the realm of possibilities, and that would be a very impressive performance as well, because I think he did get a piece of some of the incidents we saw earlier on. So if Cosgrove was able to pull off the double here under the California sun, that would be incredibly impressive for the driver of the number 18 Porsche.
No, absolutely, and he's worked his way up into that 4th spot, so he's done a great battle so far. But we're sitting back here as we go back up front in the Ray Kingsbury, and Cody and Romain still nose to tail for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Probably one of the closest battles that's been consistent throughout this whole race. But Romain, like you said earlier, is really getting tired of seeing the back of somebody else's Porsche. And gets it off track, does a little rally action. But we had another rally action right there in front of him. Man, Murphy getting off the track again. He's going to drop him back into that 4th spot, battling with Romain. Romain not happy about that. I wonder if he ran over one of the McNuggets that dropped off of Mikolajczyk's car earlier, got him off the track. But we'll have to see. But as we come back, tough rejoin as Romain tries to go on the inside, bangs fenders with them as they're coming up the front straightaway, flashes his lights at him to show him his pleasure and that he's number 1 going up and underneath the straightaway.
I guess the saying would be, I'm going for first. It goes Romain Rateau. He's probably not very happy after that, but I'm not sure I'm not sure if that got picked up on the microphone, but whatever tone I set off when Romain Rateau tried to go down the inside of Murphy Nichols heading into that final corner, I feel like I need to apologize to any dog owners that are watching this stream on Slow Motion Broadcasting tonight. That was probably very disturbing for your feline friends. Actually, no, that'd be cats. My brain's been so fried by this broadcast already, I can't even remember what cats and dogs are. For your canine friends, there we go. Finally got the terminology right in my head. But anyways, we're going to go back and talk about the racing. Coletta, I think, has had an off-track moment in the past few moments, and here's a replay of a moment involving Cody Cosgrove that is heading through the corkscrew, and you can see he slipped by Ray Kingsbury, who tripped up heading through the corkscrew and lost out on that spot. That, I think, is one of the first times Ray Kingsbury has had a move put on him thus far in this race. He's put on a defensive clinic so far this evening in the 27, coming up to 28 minutes in this 45-minute race thus far. Hasn't lost out on any positions, and in that 15-minute sprint, he put on a defensive masterclass. Now I'm waiting to see if Nichols can get a move done on Kingsbury soon, because then we're going to have the Kingsbury and Rateau fight that we saw in the sprint heat up yet again. And I don't know about you, Mike, but that would just cap off the drama we've had thus far.
Yeah, I think Romain is probably looking up front there at Kingsbury going, where was that a while? And Romain getting to the backside of Nichols and spinning him out. Oh, man, I'm not sure what happened. I don't know if he swiped across on his bumper or whatnot, but they got together, and we'll have to see what this looks like coming in. But Romain got, right onto the backside of Nichols as they're coming off of turn 4. Oh, man, it's like Nichols was going way too slow through there, maybe. I don't know if he got caught up on something, went too hard on brakes, but Rateau just plowed right into the backside of him.
Oh, and there's Kingsbury getting past Cosgrove yet again. He's had an off-track moment in the final few corners, maybe ran wide, heading through turn number 9 and lost out on a whole lot of time. He has a slowdown, and look at this. That is uncalled for. Cosgrove nearly putting Rateau into the wall. Rateau is upset. You can see his live reaction with the webcams that we have connected with these drivers. I'll tell you what, another good reason why the entertainment on Slow Motion Broadcasting is better than anything else that you'll see on the iRacing platform. That was very, very sketchy, it must be said, from Cosgrove. Rateau is understandably upset with that, because if he didn't back out of it, that would have been an airplane collision heading down that start-finish straightaway to begin lap 22. These drivers starting to get a lot more upset with each other. I'm sure as much as Rateau may be upset with Cosgrove, I'm sure Nichols is not going to be best pleased with Rateau, because taking a look at that incident when we did in that slow motion replay here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, I think Rateau, it's really not my place to say, considering I've only done 2 broadcasts with this series, but from my time covering it, 3 races that is, Rateau likes to wear his emotions on his sleeve. He has not been very happy with how things have gone thus far in this race. Results-wise, not too bad. He's been up at the front so far this race. He's been up at the front during that sprint race earlier, and depending on some sort of major disaster, he'll remain up at the front as Lambert puts a move on McDade to move up into P18 overall. But getting back to Rateau, he's probably not very happy with how things have gone for him in this race. He hasn't been able to put a move on anybody, and I'm sure he saw Nichols slowing and just decided that he was not going to lift. Not going to be making any friends, but hey, coming to the end of this season, it's going to be a dramatic crescendo here from the SimCAR season. In 1 week's time, the series is going to be returning here on Slow Motion Broadcasting for the season finale at Sebring, and I'll be tuning in for that one because I'm emotionally invested into how things are going to shake out. There's a lot of drivers not very happy with each other. Some drivers that have some beef going on, which considering that we have a McNugget car, it's very fitting that we also mention beef. Man, a lot of food mentioned so far in this broadcast. I feel like I need to have some ice cream after this broadcast is said and done. Anyways, I think we'll get back on topic and talk about the racing now. With 15 minutes left to go, Kevin Fanning, he was briefly leading this race. I say briefly, he was leading for a decent chunk of the opening portion. Started this race from the pole, but when he dropped back like a rock. You can't even say like a rock. He dropped back like a frog in a pond, tied with his leg tied to an anvil. Just Fanning, that was... I'm not sure what happened to him, whether it was just extreme tire fall off or just getting put out of the groove and out of the zone that made him drop back as badly as he did. On the comeback tour, now making his way up into P6, but he's still not going to be a contender for the race win. The real question is anyone else going to be a contender for the race win, with Horvath now 4.8 seconds in front of Kingsbury?
With missing our leader from the points leader, Blake, not here this week, it's really given Devin a chance to run away and hide. This is something that we were seeing from Blake in a lot of the other races, but Devin's been able to get out in front, pull away with that 5-second advantage now on Ray Kingsbury in that second spot. Cody Crossgrove's still sitting in that third spot, about a half second behind him. So that's going to be the good battle right now for that second and third spot, as Cody has really closed that gap up into the third spot. Romain Rateau, as you mentioned, wearing his emotions on his sleeve, but I think he's been wearing his emotions on his headlight switch, because he has been really showing his aggression to a lot of people out here. And he's a very aggressive driver, but he still is clean at times. And there are minor bumps here and there, but he's not a super aggressive driver to full send and wipe out half the field. He will push his way through, but he will not wreck you to get there.
Yeah, these drivers, a lot of them racing clean and trying to put on the best show that they can. I'll tell you what, it has been a fantastic show thus far. That was some battling heading down the Ray Hall straightaway, with Stoltz actually dropping back and losing a whole lot of time. I think he's had to serve a slowdown in the past few moments. He lost out on quite a lot of time in the past few moments. Now we're following the driver running in P10, trying to hold on to that P10 spot. He's actually going to lose out as Elias Ramon gets a move done to slip his way up into 10th. That was Paul Mikulicek, who had a big moment and ran wide heading through the Andretti hairpin, and sadly for him, it just loses out on yet another position. The driver of the number 77 car still running in P11, not too bad. The next car that would catch up to him is this man, Marwan Mafta, the driver who's been at the front of the M category, I think ever since the drop of the green flag. Actually, no, hasn't been since the drop of the green flag. It's been close to it after the incident for Flores earlier on, but Mafta still putting on a very good show, running 12th at the moment, up one spot from where he started in this race. And Ramon now making his way up, his 13th position gained thus far. That number 5 Ferrari has just been on rails. I'm curious, if he had a better qualifying result, where exactly would Elias Ramon have ended up in this race? I feel like he would have been a force to be reckoned with.
No, absolutely. He had that spin early in the heat race that knocked him way back in the field. So if he would have had a good result from his heat race, it would have been interesting to see where Elias ended up. But if we see go back on with Cody and Ray coming into turn 1, Ray slowing down to let him go by. That was a little interesting. Just let him slide by. He pulled over, let him go. It wasn't like he had a slowdown or anything. He just kind of slid over and checked up a little bit.
Hey, Mike, producer back in here again. I will say one thing. Ray Kingsbury is not one to let anybody go, as has been seen for the last almost 40 minutes of this broadcast. So, yeah, gonna have to figure out what exactly happened there with Ray, unless he thinks Cody can go track down Devin. I just don't know if he gave him enough time.
Oh, absolutely. We still got about 10 minutes left to go, so we're gonna have to see now if Cody can run down Devin. I mean, that's a almost 5-second advantage right now, Ron. I mean, that's going to be a tough gap to try to swallow up in 5 minutes or 10 minutes.
Yeah. Oh boy, I think we've had some big drama transpire over the past few moments. We're looking at a replay of Marwan Mafta, the driver who I may have just jinxed a few moments ago. You can see him heading his way off into the Andretti hairpin of turn 2. Sideways, slideways, spins out of the position that he was in. I'm curious, did he keep it back rolling? Yeah, you can see he kept his spot, so well played to Mafta. I'm not going to talk about him between now and the end of this broadcast out of fear of jinxing him yet again. Still running in P12. He didn't even lose a position overall, so well done to Marwan Mafta to extend such a big gap whereby he didn't even have to bother really being in any sort of rush to rejoin the race after that spin heading through the Andretti hairpin just one lap ago. This time by much cleaner. Well done, Mafta. But looking at the front end of the field, Devin Horvath up 3 spots from where he started in this race. Has only got a handful of laps left to go with only 8 minutes left on the clock. Now that gap is about 4.4 seconds over Cosgrove. Cosgrove putting on a very good show. He's had to battle and scroll for every single position that he has gained. Right now, I feel like it may be too little too late. He's up 6 spots from where he started. I don't think he's going to make it 7, as Horvath has just been running in the fast lane and cruising. Or as I say that, actually, that gap has decreased quite a lot. You can see last time by, Horvath was at a 122.6, and last time by, Cosgrove was at a 122.143, setting the fastest lap of the race in the process. Right as I was kind of putting the crown on Horvath, I don't think this race is over yet at all.
No, in the last 2 laps, he's gained over 1 second advantage. Cody has. So this is definitely going to be interesting. We may have spoke too early for him, but we may have also given him the commentator curse. So we'll have to see how this works out for the next 7 minutes, because the last 2 laps he gained a 1.5 seconds time on that lead. So he's got to, we're coming through some lap traffic as well, so he's got to make sure that he gets clean passes, chooses his time. He wants to really back up a corner if he comes up to somebody and get a good exit on these and get a good pass on somebody. This is a good chance right here to come by, so we'll have to see how Josh does it. He does a good job. He listens to our producer to talk to him virtually in his ear. We won't choose the words that our producer was using, but he made a good pass on him to come down. So we'll have to see what the lap times look like as Josh spins out coming around turn 10. So good timing for Cody to get by him. But here comes our leader, Devin, by the stripe, Ron. He comes by with a 22.7. Even coming through lap traffic, Cody comes by with a 22.3. So he gained another almost 0.5 second. So we're down to 4 seconds now on this gap between these two as they come out of Andretti hairpin.
The real question is, though, is there going to be enough time in this race? Less than 6 minutes left on the clock. I'll try and do the math. I say do the math in my head. I'm just going to pull up a calculator. Public school education failing me yet again. I'm not really sure if Cosgrove has enough time to close that gap. It's actually increased a little bit since the start of this lap. It was down to 3.7 seconds, teetering around that 4-second barrier. And the main thing is, can he close up? That's one question. Can he put on the overtake to take the lead of the race in the dying breath is an entirely different thing. Thankfully for both of those drivers, they escaped near disaster as they dealt with the lap traffic of Josh Suchi. Oh, and I think we have had just a moment in time for John Marshbanks. He's dropped back down to the pits. I think the McLaren driver just had an off-track moment, and oh, that's a big crash heading into the corkscrew. I think he may have lost it under braking, or that's a major hardware failure. John Marshbanks going off the track in spectacular fashion, going to rejoin the track, so that's not Oh, what in
McNuggets
the
for
world
everyone.
happened there? This is a very strange incident, as you can tell from the fact that our producer is laughing like a Catholic schoolgirl. What in the world just went on with John Marshbanks?
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened coming into the corkscrew there, but a couple little mistakes from him and dropping him down the field. But as we go back up front with Devin, and then we switch back to the 6th spot of Kevin Fanning. Kevin's still right behind. Actually, Kevin really closing in on Romain Rateau right now. That's pretty surprising. You know, I wonder if Romain gained some damage. It might have some aero damage or something going on. Yeah, quite a bit of damage on that right front right now. So maybe that's what's causing Kevin to actually reel back into Romain. So we'll have to see. You know, we're coming up on 4 minutes left to go. Fanning maybe working his way back up into maybe the top 5.
Yeah, maybe we'll just have to wait and see how it shakes out in that fight. Meanwhile, at the north end of the field, we were thinking that Cody Cosgrove would be able to close that gap between himself and Horvath in the dying breaths of this race. But I just think it's going to be too little too late. With the time left on the clock, 41.5 minutes on the board of this 45-minute long race, I just don't think there's going to be enough time. Last time by, it was still a closure of that gap between Horvath and Cosgrove, but it just wasn't enough to really make a significant dent. I think Horvath may have this in the bag. Knowing my luck, though, probably just jinx it. We're going to see that Ferrari spear off the track in a couple of moments' time. So if that does happen, Devin Horvath, I would like to issue out a sincere and formal apology on behalf of myself. Yep, I think I may have just jinxed it. It's now going below 3 seconds. He's lost out on a whole lot of time. I have pulled off the worst commentator's jinx of my life. Devin Horvath dropping back with a whole lot of pace. The gap is now down to 2.4 seconds. I'm curious if he picked up a slowdown as of late because he lost a whole lot of time. He's back up to speed, so I'm not sure if this is a persistent issue. Still losing time, though. He's lost about 0.2 of a second just heading through the corkscrew alone. They're going...
Yeah, I bet you he's fuel saving right now. Yeah, he bet you he really light fueled to try to make this race, and he's overused his fuel as we're coming off.
Oh,
man, I wonder if he picked up some damage. Yeah, I wonder if there's some damage on that leader right now, as the lead is now at less than 1.5 seconds. Cody closing in. That is a very strange turn of events, Ron.
And as our producer pointed out, as Horvath went through that final corner, that car looked evil as he tried to turn into the 11th corner around Laguna Seca. That just looked so ill-handling. I think he may have cooked the tires on that race car, if I'm being completely honest. That gap is cratering in the final breaths of this race. It's going to come into the white flag next time by. Rateau, meanwhile, he's battling hard with Nasir. This is a battle for P4 out there on the racetrack between two Porsches. Rateau, one of the top drivers in this series, trying to scrap and claw for every single position he can gain. But it's just a matter of if, not when, because we don't know if Rateau will be able to pull off this move. He's had a lot of frustration so far this evening. We'll see if that continues through to the end of this race. But coming up to only 1 minute left on the clock, Cody Cosgrove is there. That gap is now below 1 second for the first time in quite some time. Devin Horvath has some challenge. He's coming to the white flag this time by. It's going to be one more time around Laguna Seca here from the SimCAR series, and Horvath went off the track heading out of turn number 11. They're going to be side by side coming to take the white flag. Cosgrove, will he be able to get that move done? Will he be able to clear the number 29 Ferrari on his outside line? They'll be side by side, battle last late breakers, heading into the Andretti hairpin for the final time. Cody Cosgrove has put on a wonderful recovery drive. We thought he was done. We thought this battle was game, set, match, but he has brought the thunder in the dying stages of this race, and he's now extending that gap between himself and Horvath. But look a little bit farther up the road, we got some lap traffic to deal with as well. A Mustang, I believe that may be Lynn that they're about to catch up to. Yes, it is Jason Lane in the Penguin RC Simulations car, currently running 24th overall in this field. He is going to be a thorn in the side of Cody Cosgrove. The real question is, are they going to catch up to them between now and the checkered flag? Rateau has got to move on Nasir to move up to 4th. So the battle between the two Porsches right towards the tail end of into the top 5 has definitely not cooled off, as Rateau has finally got a move done, but they're still side by side now. About to head their way into the corkscrew for the final time. Looks like Nasir is going to get that move done. Look at Fanning trying to pick up the pieces. If these drivers come to blows, they are incredibly close to making contact heading through the corkscrew for the final time. But meanwhile, at the north end of the field, we had him checked out, but Cody Cosgrove has fought back in the comeback of a century to take the checkered flag and pull off the double here at Laguna Seca. Cody Cosgrove brings that number 18 Porsche to victory lane, but the sprint and the feature, and here we go. A photo finish possibly developing here between Nasir and Rateau. Nasir is going to win out. Meanwhile, Youngwall and Fanning side by side coming to the line. Youngwall going to finish this race in P6. Murphy Nichols, who was involved in that fight not terribly long ago, he's going to end up in 9th with Baker running out the top 10. But talk about a comeback tour. Cosgrove making it up 7 spots between the start and the finish of this race. But it's that one final spot that he gained that made the world of difference. Horvath, I'm curious, what in the world happened to him? The last lap, he set a 124.5, which was painfully slow compared to the other laps he had set in this race. He had some sort of major drama, whether that be fuel-saving issues or whether it be tire-saving issues, remains to be decided. But Horvath, he is going to be kicking himself at whatever cost him what we thought was going to be a surefire victory. With the gap that he had with 10 minutes left to go, it just all fell apart and ended in tears. He's still going to end up in P2, but he really wanted to be on that top spot. Mike, what a finish.
Yeah, like you said, what a finish. I mean, that was insane. Devin having, 5+ second advantage with, 8 to 10 minutes still left to go. And Cody just to reel him in. What a great race that was. As we come up onto our finishing results for the race, we got taking the win in number 1, Cody Cosgrove, with that amazing run, chasing down your second place car of Devin Hovard. Ray Kingsbury finishing in 3rd. Justin Nasir will come home 4th. Romain Rateau had just probably a real rough night of racing, finishing up in that 5th spot. Christian Youngwall finishing in 6th. Kevin Fanning muscling that Mustang around in the 7th spot. Elias Romain will finish 8th. Murphy Nichols in 9th. Steve Baker in 10th. 11th spot goes to Paul Mikolajczyk. And then your top amateur, Marwin Mofta, doing the double, winning last week and this week in the amateur class, coming home in the 12th spot overall. Matt Kingsbury finishing in 13th. Tim Brokaw 14th. Anthony Flores with a recovery drive to finish in the 15th spot. Brian Sohn finishing in 16th. 17th goes to Josh Stoltz. And the 18th spot is Brandon Lambert.
And then looking through the rest of the field, we got the Canadian of Jeff Johnson finishing this race in 19th. Then we have Travis Deflumer in 20th. That's Peter McDade in 21st. Casey O'Brien in 22nd. Josh Succi in 23rd. Jason Lynn in 24th. That was Josh Succi in 23rd. Jason Lynn 24th. Went through those drivers twice because they had 2 very interesting evenings here from Laguna Seca. That is going to be John Marshbanks finishing this race in 25th. Daniel Coletta finishing this race in 26th. Got all the names confused. I'll tell you what, with that finish, you can't really blame me for having my brain cells just entirely checked out from this broadcast. And then Kevin Bogart going to round out the 27 cars that ended up taking to the starting grid in this race. And now, Mike, we've got some drivers waiting in the interview waiting area to have a quick chat with us. Who do you like to have a chat with?
I will take our AM winner, Marwin Mofta, and I'll let you have the pro winner. But Marwin, congratulations on an amazing drive today. This is 2 weeks in a row that you've just kind of got into a good bubble of gap between everybody and just kind of drove your own race.
Yeah, for a minute I felt stuck in the middle of nowhere, but I didn't know that Anthony wasn't in front of me, so I was trying to manage my laps. I was running 23s. Just to make sure that I reached the end. I did one major mistake. I spun in first turn. I was hoping no one catch me up.
Yeah, we got that on broadcast, so don't worry about that, okay?
Thank you for making me famous. But yeah, it worked out. It's awesome. I don't know how that can affect the standing. I was like P5 last I checked, so fight is on. One more. We'll see.
Yeah, No, definitely, Marvin. That was a great race today. Next week is Sebring. Are you looking forward to Sebring? Because that's, it's a track that people either love or hate. So how do you feel about that last race coming up?
I'm excited for it. Now, again, Sebring is one of the tracks that I put a lot of laps on it, so we'll see
awesome.
how it goes forward.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on another win for you, Marwin. While you're up here in the broadcast booth, would you like to give a shout out or thanks to anybody?
Again, for the Penguin RC for sponsoring the league, for the SimCAR league, for you guys and everyone that helped us, my team. So yeah, thanks everyone.
Awesome. Congratulations, Marwin. Go enjoy your victory, and we look forward to see you next week from Sebring.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you. And that was our winner in the AM class. And Ron, who do you got for the pro winner?
Well, we have got the pro winner himself, Cody Crosgrove, now joining us in the commentary booth. Cody, congratulations on a hard-fought night of racing action here from the SimCAR series, pulling off the double when everything was said and done, but our attention was focused on that dramatic conclusion to the feature race. Talk us through it.
Man, that was a tough one. I had to work for that one, that's for sure. I ended up getting a slowdown, and I had to let my teammate Ray by, so I didn't hold him up, and then I just put my head down and did my laps, and luckily I have a good teammate, and Ray gave me a chance and went to go chase down Devin, and I'm glad he did that, so I gotta thank Ray for that.
And after that little bit of teamwork making the dream work, you start to close up that gap to Horvath. We thought, at least from our perspective in the commentary booth, that that gap was slowly starting to stagnate around that 4-second barrier. From your perspective, outside of your competitor's cockpit, but inside your own, what do you think was the reason why we saw the at one point leader start to fall back into the crutches of yourself?
I think he was starting to get nervous or something, because I was eating away at his 6-second lead. So I think he was starting to look at his mirror a little bit more, and because as soon as I got to his bumper, or at least a second and a half close to him, I could see he was going off track a lot. So he was definitely struggling at the end.
It looks like stress was the main thing that may have decided this race towards the end of it. Your competitor was his palms were sweaty, his knees were weak, his arms were heavy. There's vomit on a sweater already from his mom's spaghetti. That was a terrible analogy. That was a terrible metaphor here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. So I think for that alone, I would like to issue out another formal apology on this broadcast. But nevertheless, Cody, thank you for joining us in the commentary booth. Congratulations on pulling off the double here this evening. I hear our producer groaning. I had to do that, Adam. I am really sorry. If you want to fire me on grounds of that, I won't necessarily blame you. So Cody, congratulations on the 2 victories this evening. And before we let you celebrate those wins, is there anyone you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
Yeah, I want to thank you guys for putting on a good show. SimCAR, obviously, all the guys that put that together. I know I'm one of them, but all the guys that are involved, they put it on a good show too, to make a good league for us. And I'd like to thank my team, Solpec Racing, Precision Racing, and that's pretty much it, guys.
Alrighty, well there you go, Cody. Congratulations on the victories yet again, and excited to see you back out on the racetrack in Sebring in 1 week's time to bring this season to a close. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
And that was Cody Cosgrove, who ends up finishing this race with 2 victories on the night. And for what may be my farewell performance here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, after that quote a few moments ago, I think I will maybe end it by talking about some of the upcoming broadcasts here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. We have got the action from all 3 of the Weekend Warriors series. We've got the conclusion to all 3 of the series of Formula V Weekend Warriors, bringing the season to a close at Lime Rock Park in just 2 days' time this upcoming Saturday, and then the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors going to round their season off at this very racetrack at Laguna Seca. Then we have the SRF season finale at Oulton Park. That's going to be a fun day of racing action. Then we also have the XSLR series with the VW Beetle lights running at the Charlotte infield rallycross track. That's going to be a pretty good show. And we're also going to see our colleague Adam on that broadcast, and maybe running a livery saying how people should not hire me after that terrible line from about a couple minutes ago. And as we mentioned, the season finale for the SimCAR series coming up this Thursday, September the 5th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, only here on Slow Motion Broadcasting to catch all the GT3 action to round this season to a close at Sebring. Mike, it's been a fantastic night of racing action here at Laguna Seca, and Sebring in 1 week's time is going to be equally as dramatic, if not even more dramatic, than the racing action that we saw under the California sun. Final thoughts on this race and your thoughts heading into the season finale at Sebring?
Yeah, definitely no short of action tonight. It was great racing, but the one big call out I have is you were probably 1 week too late on your song quote, because we were in Detroit last week and it would have been very fitting to be in at that track. So, but I will close this out with Braun, great job tonight. It was a pleasure being in the booth with you. Adam Thompson always does his thing in production. I am Mike Braun. We are SimCAR tonight. Slow motion broadcasting next week. We will see you guys from Sebring.
Turn one is going to be interesting. Let's see if everybody gets through it. Looks like there's a little bit of a bump there, but everybody's getting through it okay. Now into turn two, turn three. We're 3 wide right in front of them. Oh, we got cars everywhere.
Big trouble. Kingsbury, you need to work on closing this gap and then maybe play the patience game. Make sure your tires are nice and cool. Don't overuse them. And to stay there in a good position as we see a pass for the lead. Hutcherson making the big move into turn one, young wall.
Like Kingsbury's trying to go around the out or the inside, but it turns into the outside, and there's contact. Marwan did not leave him any room.
Yeah,
oh, no.
We get together.
Oh, no.
Where he should be.
So what happened there, Mike? What did he do? Did he suck his tire off?
I'm gonna go mute now.
I see a Budweiser. Go ahead and hold it up.
Yes.
That was the biggest clue.
Yes, right
Doing
there.
it for Dale.
Man, it's so many gimmicks, right? I feel like they're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, a lot of people, you get polarizing opinions on DRS.
I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here, but sometimes the effort, it's all about the boys. You know, like, hey, you know, life sucks sometimes, and you need the boys.
iRacing kind of always has a tendency to kind of buff
Yes.
the new cars just a little bit. I'm not going to go on record saying it's because they want people to spend money on their platform and buy all the new content.
Confirmed.
But
Yes.
but